And we are back live here on the Cowboys Report. I am Tom Downey, producer Chris Daughtry behind the scenes for today's live show. Yes, we will spend plenty of time on Mike McCarthy as we still have no firm and final answer on what the Cowboys are going to do, which is just par for the course of bad management from this organization. Before we get into that and some questions for you guys, a question from Noah Turner via Super Chat. Would you be on board with Dennis Allen as a defensive coordinator? I would be. Dennis Allen is not a good head coach. I've seen that twice now. He is a pretty solid defensive coordinator, though. So, depending on what your coaching staff looks like, yeah, Dennis Allen would be on my list of top defensive coordinator candidates. Don't think there'd be that much objection to that, frankly. Now, what is controversial is, do you want Mike McCarthy back as the Cowboys head coach? This is your opinion on this one. Do you want McCarthy back as the Cowboys head coach in 2025? Y for yes, N for no. You can let me know in the comment section of today's show. David says no. Turd Ferguson says no. Zay says no. I suspect we'll get a decent amount of no's in there. Dylan says, I don't mind, honestly. Jordan, no way. Calvin, no. Max wants Ben Johnson. Doesn't every NFL fan base want Ben Johnson right now? Yeah, we all have eyes. We can see how good that Lions offense looks and some of the creative packages that you'd never see in Dallas. Dominique says no. Chris says yes. Noah says no. Frederick says no. Louis says doesn't matter as long as Jerry's in charge. William says no. Lee says no. Get the comments coming. Y or N for me in the comment section. Justin, if Mike doesn't return, who do you think is most likely to be the next head coach? I fear it would be Kellen Moore. TBD. Timing matters here. There is a non-zero chance the Patriots hire Mike Vrabel before you make a single decision on Mike McCarthy, which is just organizational malpractice from the Cowboys in a year full of organizational malpractice crap. I think Vrabel would be a strong candidate. I do think Kellen Moore would be a candidate. I think the Cowboys, with the way they tend to operate, go most likely one of two ways. Someone who has head coach experience, that's the likes of, a Mike Vrabel, and then the list gets kind of thin behind him, like a Doug Peterson, which I hate that idea. Or it's someone they've got familiarity with. Kellen Moore would be in that mold. Aaron Glenn would be in that mold. What I would like to see them do is do a real coaching search. Interview Liam Cohen. Interview Joe Brady. Interview all kinds of different options and see who actually impresses you. And don't interview 4 or 5 coaches and go, okay, we're done. We did it. Yay. It's a bad process. Can't control the results always. Maybe Ben Johnson just doesn't want to come to Dallas, which might be a process thing for you anyway, but at least try. That's what I do. Today's show is made possible by Game Time. Game Time has a new feature. It's called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for events even easier. Download the Game Time app today over at gametime.co. Create your account and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create your account. Redeem code CHATSPORTS, CHATSPORTS, for $20 off your first purchase. Today's show also made possible by Prize Picks. Whether it is pro football or college football, the playoffs are here, and it's now or never. Don't miss out on the last few weeks of football action with Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today over at prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS to get $50 after you play your first $5 lineup. Now, previously we just asked you, what do you want to happen? What do you think ends up happening? Will Mike McCarthy return as the Cowboys head coach in 2025? As of right now, it is 51% yes, 49% no. So it is almost a 50-50 split in the live poll, which I think is actually the best way of going about it. I don't know what happens. I suspect that and we'll mention this again, and I've mentioned it a few times, the Cowboys want Mike back, but on certain terms and conditions and everything else, and I don't know if Mike's going to agree to those. He's got some leverage here. Because, again, why'd you wait? And lame duck. Deadlines make deals is a bad process for anything, especially a head coach. It's just like nobody else operates this way. Nobody. I can't recall the last time a coach got to a contract year outside of Jason Garrett in Dallas. That's it. I just don't understand. So will he return? A for yes, B for no. Clay the Cowboy, a first-time super chat. Thank you, Clay. Says scorch the earth, like Bill Parcells said back in the day. Keep CD and Micah and some young pieces and get rid of the rest. Only shot of winning of anything. So you want a full-on teardown and a rebuild. Okay. I do think you were not that far away from being able to do it, and then you paid the quarterback. And a full-on scorched earth rebuild, I don't know if that fully makes sense. What I would frankly do is I would actually be aggressive this offseason for once. We'll spend some time on today's show. You can have very, very easily $100 million in salary cap space. And that's before you even have to cut anybody. You can get to that figure with 0 roster cuts. It's actually not that challenging for a good organization. Sometimes they are a not good organization, though. That would have, I think, the rebuild plan was I was fine with it. You just kind of didn't make a decision, though, until September of this year, which makes no sense. It's just everything about this team is just a bad process. And it continues to frustrate me over and over again. I would go be aggressive for 4 years, and then if it doesn't work, let's tear it down. Now, would the Jones boys ever do that? I don't know. You weren't that far away a year ago, and then you didn't do anything, and no surprise, you actively chose to get worse, and you're further away. It's a front office issue. This is the Super Chat menu for today's show. $20 for a shot, $50 for the beer bong, and $500 for a custom Cowboys jersey. We can ship it out to you, or we can wear it during this upcoming season and then ship it out to you like we did with Anthony McMillan's, and we'll do with one of the Yabarvo's jerseys this upcoming season. Now, I mentioned the Cowboys spending ways. Again, I will break it down as explain this to me like I'm 5, as much in that vein as possible for the Cyclops, because it's complicated stuff. It's tricky. It's math, and nobody likes math outside of a few weird people. What is your confidence level in the Cowboys actually spending? Because I will say, if you bring back McCarthy or whoever your head coach is, you have to make the roster better. Didn't work previously. Either get better coaching or get better players. You got to do one of the things. That is a basic tenet of football as far as I'm concerned. And I think we'll get a lot of low answers on this one. Confidence level in the Cowboys actually spending 2 on a good day, 0.69, 8, 2. Someone asking about high Tyreek Hill, and I'm going to tropes up there. It's kind of weird. 1, 3, 0, 10. 2 or 3, -1, -3, 1.5, 2. Yeah, they're all valid. I don't have faith in them right now. Don't blame anyone for not having faith either. Ready for us to begin today's live show? Do me a favor, like the stream. The goal was always a 50% like ratio. We're barely at 1/8, which is disappointing. Not even to 69 likes, frankly. So like the video if you haven't already done so here on the Cowboys Report. Coming up on today's live show, we'll break down where things sit with Mike McCarthy, the slow crawling pace which the Cowboys are moving, plus some other updates around Cowboy Land. I will break down the actual truth of the Cowboys salary cap space. I will not be a victim of the Cowboys pie lie and their propaganda. I have mentioned the $100 million figure. I will go in depth on how easy it is to get there if you want to, and you don't even have to cut a singular player to make it happen. We'll have mailbag chances too. Get your questions in via #Cowboys or Super Chat. Lots of super thanks you need to get caught up on, so Super Chat's a guaranteed way to get on there. And we'll break down some Cowboys cut candidates. Not as many players as some previous years because, well, that's what happens when you're not actually paying anybody. All of that coming up live here on the Cowboys Report. So the surprise of nobody, we're going to begin today's show with the latest on Mike McCarthy and the situationship the Cowboys have allowed themselves to enter somehow. First, I want to hear your opinions. Do you want Mike McCarthy back as the Cowboys head coach? Y for yes, N for no. Let me know in the comments of today's video. Based on all the latest reporting, most notably Adam Schefter, Ian Rappaport, the Cowboys and Mike McCarthy are still talking and discussing the future, and they might not have even discussed contract stuff yet, which just absolutely blows my mind, even though I probably shouldn't be surprised. Adam Schefter, NFL Live, most recently saying this: "It doesn't sound like he's any closer to a deal with the Dallas Cowboys currently, but we've seen the Cowboys always wait until the last minute on these types of deals. Go back to Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb late in the summer. Usually, these situations seem to linger until there is some sort of artificial deadline." Well, McCarthy can interview next week after January 14th. I would think that in some time here, the next couple of days, the Cowboys would step forward to see whether there's a solution or not to figure out if Mike stays in Dallas. I will say, and I will be blunt because I'm not going to be a chill guy with this stuff anymore. Making deadlines make deals, your process for a head coach who you've known and been involved with for 5 years, is asinine. It's stupid. This is not how any other organization operates. And it's embarrassing. You should know. It's been 5 years. Come on. Ian Rappaport mentioned something similar, by the way. Even mentioned that there hadn't been any contract talks yet. What are we doing out here? How, after 5 years of marriage, have we regressed to being in a situationship with the Dallas Cowboys? How is the relationship status? It's complicated. What do you need to figure out? Honestly, what do you need to know? Because all the stuff you might want to argue over, contract length, terms, people want a new OC, all that stuff tells me he's actually not your guy. That if you're not just going to give him whatever he wants, is he really the head coach to lead you to a Super Bowl? If we're nickel and diming and arguing over different things about what the goals are and what the contract stuff looks like, then he's not your guy. The Dallas friggin' Cowboys. You're richer than any other NFL team. How do you not know? I hate it here sometimes. Hate it here a lot lately. This isn't fun. How does it take you days upon days to figure out who your head coach is going to be? It took the Patriots an hour to make a decision on Gerard Mayo. Come on. They were there for 1 year. It's honestly embarrassing to keep doing this song and dance every single time. They'll probably announce their decision in the middle of the Eagles playoff game because that's how they do business. So will Mike McCarthy return as the Cowboys head coach in 2025? A for yes, B for no. Let me know at the pinned comment of today's show. More to come, but go vote if the ad comes here on YouTube. Now, ESPN's Jeremy Fowler also mentioned McCarthy could have mutual interest in some other jobs that are open. There are 6 jobs open right now. The 2 mentioned by Fowler, the Chicago Bears and the New Orleans Saints. There's ties to both organizations. The Bears already requested and were denied the interview by the Cowboys for McCarthy. The Bears are also going to interview like 20 people, so, noteworthy. The Saints, McCarthy was there for a little bit. Look, I'll be honest with you guys. McCarthy's an upgrade. I might argue a sizable one for both organizations. He's better than what they had last year. But that's also not my concern. I don't really care if Mike McCarthy gets to be an upgrade over the 30th best head coach in football. I care if he's the right guy in Dallas, because that is my team. I want to know, is this the right guy to win me a championship? And if the Cowboys believe that, okay, then pay him. Get it done. There's no reason to drag your feet. And if he's not, okay, move on. If he's not your guy, then the mystery box is appealing. If you don't think McCarthy's the boat, then go to the mystery box. I would rather them take a risk in a way they haven't taken a risk in a really long time than just go with the comfort of what they know. So for now, we keep waiting. And we sit around here going, okay, we'll see what's going to happen. They've been talking. Ooh, they're texting each other. Are they going to start dating or not? Like, come on. Let's pick up the pace here. There's no justifiable reason for this to take as long as it has, outside of the Cowboys just do things their own way, and their way hasn't worked in 25 plus years, almost 30 years now. Today's show is made possible by Game Time. Game Time is the place for last-minute tickets to your next big event. They got a new feature. It's called Game Time Picks. It makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live or events even easier. It filters out the fluff to only show you incredible deals on great seats, so you don't waste time searching through thousands of tickets to find the best value. It is curation designed to make it easier to find the better value, not just for sports, but for concerts, comedy, theater, and everything else in between. The all-in pricing feature shows your total cost up front with no surprise fees at checkout. So download the Game Time app today, create your account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. But again, create your account, redeem code CHATSPORTS, CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download Game Time today for last-minute tickets, the lowest price, all guaranteed. Link will be in the comment section and the description of today's show. Terms apply, but create your account over at GameTime.co and use code CHATSPORTS. Saw Carl Lawson and a potential return here. We'll begin to dabble in a variety of free agency stuff here as we move forward. He is set to be a free agent. He also told Nick Harris he wants to return to the Dallas Cowboys. Asked, do you want to come back to Dallas? He said, 100%. The winning part of it wasn't there, but bonding in the NFL, this was my best season doing that with my teammates. I was in the moment, and I was present for the season each and every day. It seems short, but you can create bonds that can last you a lifetime. Even Nick Vigil. I didn't see Vigil in forever. These bonds are going to last a lifetime. Lawson, slow start to begin the year. Part of that could be he was getting ramped up, getting back into football shape, all of that. Did end up finishing the year with 5 sacks. And I think for what a lot of people were hoping for was what we got in the end from Carl Lawson, a good enough rotational pass rusher. When he had to be the number 1 or the number 2 with all the injuries, that wasn't as good. When he was like the 3 or the 4, which you never really got to fully deploy him in that role the way you wanted to with Tank Lawrence out for the entire year, that's where it's intriguing to me. And I would not be mad at all with a Carl Lawson return. I will say this. He took the Dante Fowler mercenary pass rusher role. That role should not be expensive. It should be borderline the veteran salary benefit where you don't count that much against the caps, but you get a little bit more money from an actual cash from the Cowboys. It shouldn't be more than $3 or $4 million at most. It just doesn't need to be. Because I think as long as you got Micah Parsons out there playing, you're going to be able to benefit. And that pass rusher is going to put up good numbers, good production, because the attention is going his way. We watched the Commanders game. Micah's getting triple teams sometimes. He's got 3 guys on him. Leaves a lot of more favorable matchups for Carl Lawson and others on this team. So I am down to bring him back. Same with Chauncey Golston, who should be more expensive, frankly. But it should not come at a premium cost. Now, we are getting closer to 250,500 subscribers. Hit that sub button if you haven't already. YouTube.com/@CowboysTV. Hit that sub button if you haven't already done so. Let's talk. I can't believe we're doing this. Athlon Sports is trying to push a Myles Garrett trade to the Dallas Cowboys this offseason. Now, look, Garrett's made comments that he wants to win. He wants to know the Browns are setting up a good plan. And if the Browns can't do that, he might request a trade. So because it is the Cowboys and because it is a local-ish player, of course he gets linked. This was the trade package from Athlon Sports. The Cowboys get Myles Garrett. Browns get 2 firsts, a second, and a 4th-round pick. The trade package is probably fine. That's not my issue with it. Before we get to that, what is the percent chance you think the Dallas Cowboys actually trade for Myles Garrett? Let me know in the comment section of today's show. Percent chance the Cowboys trade for Myles Garrett. I think we know the real answer here. It's 0 if you want to go to absolute 0, negative degrees Calvin. That's fine too. There's no chance this happens. There's no chance the Cowboys actually go trade for Myles Garrett for a variety of reasons. The biggest of which is this isn't how they operate. They are not a splashy team anymore. Look, Garrett is due for a new deal soon, by the way. That's why he's mentioning the whole, what's the Browns' plan for me? Whenever he gets paid, probably after Micah Parsons in theory, it's going to be second or most highly paid non-quarterback in the NFL. Do we think the Dallas Cowboys, with the way they operate, are going to be paying CeeDee Lamb $34 million, Micah Parsons $35 to $40 million, and Myles Garrett that as well? No. This is Madden nonsense. This is, hey, you get two awesome football players. Yeah, Garrett's great. They're not going to do what it costs from a money perspective or from a draft capital perspective. They love their picks too much. They're not moving 2 first-round picks. There's no way the Cowboys would have any interest in doing that. And in the end, I doubt the Browns trade away arguably, if not one of the best defensive players in football. Just all of it just seems like nonsense to me. What is your trust level right now in the Cowboys? Scale it for me from 1 to 10 in the comments section of today's show. It is a low number for me. I think a lot of us are not feeling great about this organization right now. Man, I don't blame anybody. They got to earn back trust, and they have not operated in that fashion the way we want them to in a while, and it feels like it just continuously find ways to get worse. So, give me your trust level comments in the live chat right now. Let's get some super chats. Cato34. Any scenario where McCarthy returns is a complete disaster. I'm okay with it if an offensive coordinator is pure copium. Sad times. Oh, look, I'll say this. If you hired a offensive-minded head coach and you didn't call the plays to begin, and then you said, okay, you can save your job by calling plays, and now we're talking about, okay, you can save your job if you don't call plays. What are we doing? We've done both things. It didn't work the way we wanted it to. Like it just doesn't make sense to me. How does that work? I've never seen a coach go from, okay, we're going to let this guy call the plays. Okay, my job's on the line. I'll take over play calling. Okay, I'll give it back up. What? My mindset is that if you don't think McCarthy's good enough to be your play caller, then you don't think he's good enough to be the head coach. Pick one. Go get some, because the argument is, okay, we'll go get a young, innovative mind. Cool. Who wants that job? That's not an appealing gig. I'd rather hire a defensive-minded head coach and then go hope to get the innovative mind, because then he gets to be the head coach of the offense. It doesn't get to be that if McCarthy's there. I completely agree. It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't. TJ Young III, is it a foregone conclusion that Tank is gone? I don't know about foregone, but I'm not going to assume it's a guarantee he's back. I don't think it's a 0% chance he's back, but I would not be surprised if he ended up going in a different direction or went somewhere else. The Marshawn Elam pick was to replace him. I was really disappointed by Marshawn Elam in year 1, but I'm not going to assume he's back. All right, the Super Chat menu. $20 for a shot, $50 for a beer bong, $500 for a custom Cowboys jersey. We do have a shot, by the way, from Jotman. If you want to go grab me the shot, thank you. I should have kept that out here with me. My bad. Thank you, Chris. It'd be a lot of work, but it's possible to get a video where we go through the Cowboys off-season free agency, in the cap, who would spend it on, Agent 8, why. So we did do this last year, Jotman. It was like the perfect free agency plan with a little bit more specifics on the numbers. We will do that again. We'll do it closer to free agency in large part because I want to see who gets cut. There's going to be some more options for them. We'll do the creation of the cap stuff here more in depth in just a second, actually, so stay tuned. We did kind of like a broader view with some draft mentions and of a wide variety of potential options on the perfect off-season plan. So check out that. Not the specific numbers, but we'll do that for free agency. We did it last year. Obviously, sometimes the players' numbers don't align one-to-one, and it's mix and matching, but I'll do it again. It's not as hard as the Cowboys make it seem. I'll put it that way. So cheers to you, Jotman. Thank you very much. Let's get set up for the next portion of today's show. The Dallas Cowboys, as you might have heard, claim to be tight on salary cap space. Oh, they can't spend money. That is a lie. Today on the Cowboys Report, I am going to break down how the Cowboys can actually make moves in free agency And you might have seen the $100 million figure thrown around by me and others. It's true. Every word of it. It's actually very easy. So if you got friends and family who believe the Jones boys lie in their propaganda, send them this video. It is very simple, and I will do my best to treat it like an explain like I'm five approach, because the cap is tricky and math is hard and no one likes math, but I'll break it down for you in depth on today's show, so share this one for me on social media. Let's begin with the overview. The Cowboys right now have around $15 million in salary cap space. Now, I'm going to emphasize the around. It's not necessarily locked in. The cap numbers are projections. I'm using OTC's 272.5. There's different rollover occasionally. Sometimes you get a different projection of the cap. OTC and Spotrac are different right now. So for easy math, we'll do rounded figures a lot today, and we'll do $15 million. You can get a plus or minus up to even 5 sometimes, but it's a nice, even, round figure. Now, look, Cowboys need change. The Cowboy way of not spending money like other contenders choose to spend is a competitive disadvantage. It has to stop. And they are in position with what they did last offseason, what they did to clear the bad money off their books, so to speak, to spend right now. Do not let any person tell you, whether intentional or unintentional, that the Cowboys are tight on salary cap space. If they are tight when free agency begins, it is by their own design and by their own choosing. They have plenty of cap to spend. You can get to $100 million. You can get to that figure without cutting a single player. Now, they might not get there. They might not from their own self moves. But at minimum, this team should create a sizable amount of salary cap space. And frankly, it's not even that hard. It's 5 steps, 5 moves, only one of which actually requires cooperation from anybody outside of the Jones boys in the organization to get to $100 million. It is that simple. We'll break it down step by step, in depth, with plenty of explanations. Before we get to it, do we trust the Cowboys to actually spend money? Because this is a very valid question. Confidence level in the Cowboys actually spending money. Scale it for me from 1 to 10. 1 on the low end, 10 on the high end. Go vote the pinned comment on today's show. The path to the old $100 million figure. Step number 1 is super easy. You restructure Dak Prescott. This is what's called a simple restructure. It doesn't require any agreement from the player or the agent. There's no extra void years that have to be added. It's already built into the contract. It is truly a flip switch, or a switch of a flip of a switch. It's just built in to do it this way. The Cowboys have a $90 million cap hit for Dak Prescott because they know going in they were going to do this. This was their plan the entire time, was to flip this switch. You bring that down to 53, it's still a lot. It actually would probably drop next year, by the way. You generate $37 million in savings like that by simply doing what the contract is designed to do. So you now have, with one move, about $52 million in salary cap space. Step number 2, super easy. You restructure the contract of CeeDee Lamb. Especially if you have guys who are going to be on your team for multiple years. And when you see that big jump in year 2 of a contract, and then the contract goes back down and on average per year, cap impact wise, this is the plan. You can take CeeDee Lamb's cap hit from about $34.5 million to around $14 million. We'll round down a little bit here. You save about $20.5 million in salary cap space. Boom. Automatic. Simple restructure. That's it. Doesn't change the way you spend. It just changes your ability to spend. The new cap space, $72.5 million. Just like that. If you want to be remotely competitive, these are non-negotiable moves. You built the contracts this way. There's zero reason to not do it outside of you want to be cheap. These are simple restructures. These are easy. These are no-brainers. These don't require anything else other than just like, hey, a phone call. Hey, we just did this. Boom. That's it. It's a no-brainer. And you're already up to $72.5 million. Now, today's show is made possible by Prize Picks. It is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. It's playoff time. It's now or never. Don't miss out on the last few weeks of football action with Prize Picks. You can get in on the college football playoff for Prize Picks as well. Here's what we got cooked up for the Ohio State-Texas game. Jeremiah Smith, less than Quinn Ewers passing yards. Sorry, boys. Travion Henderson, more than rushing yards as well. So download the Prize Picks app today over at prizepicks.com/CLNS. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. It's Prize Picks. Run your game. Link will be in the comments section and the description of today's show. Now, step number 3 requires cooperation, which the player involved has said he wants to do, by the way. It's paying Micah Parsons. As backwards as it might sound, paying Micah Parsons whatever he wants actually frees up salary cap space for you. You can pay Micah Parsons as the highest paid defensive player, non-QB, whatever it is, in NFL history. And because he has a $21.32 million cap hit as part of his 5th-year option, you can bring down that cap hit. And you will save up to about $16 million on the salary cap. You did the exact same thing when you finally paid CeeDee Lamb, except you waited and did it in late August and didn't get the immediate salary cap benefits. Now, salary cap space rolls over, so you're benefiting a little bit from it now since you never spent it, but you can save a significant amount of money. Now, you got to pay Micah. You got to be willing to pay him early, which this team struggles with, but it brings you up to about $88.5 million in salary cap space. I have moved on from no players. I have locked in my big 3, so to speak, core, and I've got $88.5 million. These first 3 moves, obvious. A competent, smart organization would do all 3 of these before free agency. They would just do it, they'd get it done, and they'd be prepared to attack. So therefore, it is unlocked the Cowboys do all 3. I feel pretty good they'll do the first 2. The Micah one, I just don't trust them. So, maybe it's not 88.5, maybe it's still 72.5, but again, this is the up to figure, and we're not done making moves yet. Now, if you want free Cowboys videos each and every single day, oftentimes multiple times per day, hit that sub button, youtube.com/@CowboysTV. Now, step 4 is a cheating 2-parter. Not even really cheating. It's making decisions with your safeties. There are several ways you can free up salary cap space. You can cut a player if the money works out that way based on what's left. You could also restructure a player. There are 2 ways you can cut a player, pre-June 1st, post-June 1st. Impacts the money you save is increased. The money you pay out doesn't, because you pay a little bit more by pushing dead money off into the future. I'll explain that here in a little bit. Both safeties, I think, are uncertain for their futures. Malik Hooker was fine. Malik Hooker was more steady. There weren't a lot of high-end impact plays, a couple interceptions. There weren't a ton of, totally down moments of wow, that was terrible. Donovan Wilson was super streaky. He was great one game, bad the next. I think both guys are uncertain because of the way their contracts are set up. Let's begin with Malik Hooker. He has a $7.75 million cap hit. Now, you can do a simple restructure on this contract, and that just puts the rest of his base salary into 2026. You save a little bit of money in the process there, $2.12 million. You can cut him right now and save $3.75 million. You could make him what's called a post-June 1st cut, which saves you $5.75 million. That extra $2 million in savings, you're basically borrowing from next year because that's going to count on the dead money. But remember, $1 this year is far more valuable than $1 next year because the salary cap goes up every single season. There is also what I would argue is a very valid train of thought, and we'll spend more time on it with Trayvon Diggs in particular here. If you're going to keep a player on the roster, you might as well borrow from the future as much as possible. It's an interest-free loan when the value of a dollar right now is worth more. Now, the Cowboys haven't always done that, but it's an option. So Hooker could save you anywhere from 2.12 to 5.75. Donovan Wilson, bigger savings here. The pre-6-1 savings don't actually change relative to Malik Hooker and the post-June 1st savings. Restructure saves you $2.67 million, somewhere in that range. A post-June 1st cut would save you $7. Now, what is noteworthy for a post-June 1st cut, you don't get those savings until after June 1st because you're pushing dead money off into the future, a little bit of dead money. Also helps pay for your draft class as a potential example. Now, that's the safety steps, and it ties into decision number 5. What do you do with Terrence Steele? This one is not quite cut and dry for me. Steele struggled relative to his 2022 play. I thought he was better down the stretch and a lot better than he was in 2023. I sometimes wonder if your offensive line coach is just bad with tackles. He's had pretty good guard success, not good tackle success. I also have to point out, you cut players, you got to find replacements. I don't know who your tackle replacement would be for Terrence Steele. Here's the contract, $18.13 million cap hit in 2025. They restructured him last year. Remember, salary cap space rolls over. They didn't really spend it, so there's really no actual impact in relative to what you would be saving Steele versus now if you hadn't restructured. It's all the same. It just depends on when you count it on the books. The restructure savings, $9 million. Pre-6-1, just 4.63. Post-June 1st, $14 million. It's a lot of money. That pays for your draft class and your rollover next year. So what are you doing with Terrence Steele? Type K for you keep him, D for you dump him. I think there are arguments both ways here. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. So to recap, you can do nothing with all three guys and save $0. You could do all restructures, save $13.85. You could do all pre-June 6 cuts and save $11.5 million. You can do a post-June 1st cut and save up to $24.75. Of note, you can designate 2 players as post-June 1st cuts. To recap the math here, that's $100 million in savings with 0 players cut if you want to go down that path. You do only pre-June 1st cuts, it's $102.3 million maxed out if you cut all of those guys. A lot of the savings might go to a safety or a tackle you sign in free agency, but still, that's your figure. Post-June 1st, your maxed out cap savings, $113.2 million. And that means you got holes at safety and tackle, but you got plenty of money to spend. Again, you do get 2 designations of post-June 1st cuts, so you can't cut all 3 of those guys. I would assume Hooker would probably be the one you don't post-June 1st if you go down that route because the savings are pretty negligible there. It's a lot of money. There's also the matter here of Trayvon Diggs' contract. Now, I've seen some bad information out there in terms of cutting him and saving money. You don't actually do anything. Trayvon Diggs' contract is guaranteed for injury and then becomes fully guaranteed in March. So he's getting it no matter what. The only real possible savings here that matter, outside of I think like $1 million post-June 1st, but at that point you're just paying to not have him there, is about $5.87 million if you restructure. And again, there is a very valid argument that if you're going to pay a guy to be on your roster, you might as well restructure. Because if you don't spend the money, you can roll it over into next year anyway, and it gives you more flexibility if you need it. Now, the savings look less the next year if you want to cut them. It's also a bad idea if you plan on trading a player. I don't think the Cowboys are going to trade Trayvon Diggs. He's coming off an injury. But that is a real and valid argument because, again, dollar now is worth a lot more than $1 tomorrow with the constant rising salary cap. So your updated max cap space is just over $119 million. It's massive money. It's not Patriots cap space money, but for a team that claims to be poor and can't spend money, that's a lie. Now, I do want to make some other notes here, by the way. Zach Martin stuff, Tank Lawrence, Brandon Cooks, those contracts are already set up to be a post-June 1st move or already being counted as voided contracts in the case of Tank Lawrence and Brandon Cooks. The Cowboys know there's a good chance Zach Martin retires. So when you go at sites like Spotrac and Over the Cap, they aren't counting Zach Martin's money as dead money yet. They will, but it is reflected in the current salary cap space. I also believe that those sites are already factoring in last year's rollover money, so I did not double count that. And you'll see the Cowboys go, oh, we got to pay Tyler Smith and stuff. Okay. There's no real impact in 2025. You can keep the base salaries low still. It's not a tangible impact. It's not. Don't let them fool you. Now, Deron Bland, maybe, if you want to go down that path, but he's coming off an injury. Cowboys going to pay him right now? I don't think so. You need to re-sign guys too. And a portion of your funds absolutely goes to that. But make no mistake about it. There's room to spend. There's a lot of room to spend money in a way this Cowboys team hasn't done because they aren't actually paying a lot of guys right now. Martin and Lawrence and Zeke, and Gallup and Cooper and all those contracts are off the books. The Eagles, of these other contenders, spend a lot more than the Cowboys do. Cowboys can do it as well. Now, if you want the Cowboys to spend, like I certainly do, type me in the comments section right now. We'll recap this one time in case you weren't paying attention. If you want the Cowboys to spend, do it right now. This is how the Dallas Cowboys can create $100 million or more in salary cap space. First off, they're at about $15 million in salary cap space right now. They can restructure Dak Prescott and save about $37 million. They can restructure CeeDee Lamb, save about $20.5 million. Paying Micah Parsons, yes, paying Micah Parsons can save them $16 million. They can cut their safeties and save between 9.1 and 12.75 in salary cap space. They can make a decision on Terrence Steele and save anywhere from 4.63 to $14 million. They can restructure Trayvon Diggs and save about $5.8 million in salary cap space. And even at least just doing Dak and Lamb generates anywhere between $72.5 million in salary cap space. Or if they want to be just a little bit more aggressive for one time in recent memory, they can generate $119 million in salary cap space. And it's actually super easy. In fact, they can have $100 million with 0 players cut. Get to a mailbag here in just a second. There are 2 ways to get on the show. You can use hashtag Cowboys or Super Chat and skip the line altogether. I'll sip some water here as well. Hashtag Cowboys or Super Chat, skip the menu. Or making sure we didn't get any weird news while I was doing that cut. There was not. So hope that was explained well. Hope it was. Math is stupid and no one likes math, so I hope I was able to explain the math to it. At least to most people. Super Chat menu, $20 for a shot, $50 for a beer bong, $500 for a custom Cowboys jersey. We will get to We Don't Wife These 304 Super Chat as part of the mailbag. There are lots of super thanks we have to get to as well. So if you haven't already, hit that Super Chat menu. We'll get to it, the full mailbag coming up right now. Some super thanks. A lot we got to get caught up on. We've been behind on our live show schedule. Matthew says, please bring in a new, innovative OC. I can't watch McCarthy's offense next season. Here's my issue. You want a new, innovative offensive coordinator? You probably need a new head coach. Why would McCarthy sign off again on not being the play caller, not having it be his offense when he's probably not going to have immense job security if he's back? Why would an innovative OC go somewhere where he knows there's going to be influence from the head coach, his boss? I agree. I want a new play caller. I think that means you want a new head coach as well. Jerry Norman just says, thank you. Well, thank you, Jerry. Appreciate that. Appreciate all the super thanks we get here on the show. It is a feature on YouTube. It's like a super chat, but outside of live. Click the thanks icon, edit your message, send in your support. Any comment, even if it is, you suck, Tom, we will give you a shout out on the show. Thomas Palmer, what's the current and future status for injured players like Sam and D. Law? Everyone outside of Trayvon Diggs and DeMarvion Overshown should have no issues getting back well before the season and probably well before training camp, frankly. Dak's off the crutches. He's going to be fine. Sam Williams, ACL tear was early, so he should be back around training camp, if not a little bit before. Tank Lawrence will be good to go for the offseason. Probably the workouts too there if he's here or somewhere else. Overshone says we'll be back before December. He said 9-month recovery. I hope so, but we'll see. Diggs is a bit uncertain there with the knee again flaring up, so TBD on that front, but maybe over under week 1. The Diggs and Overshone ones are the real question marks. From Xavier Worthy Burner, round 1. We need to go to linebacker or corner. Too much uncertainty there. Do enough to go BPA. There's a lot of good options at running back. Mentioning a bunch of guys, Kyle Monangai, Devin Neal, Cam Scattervoo, Dylan Sampson, and Marion Hampton. He'd also love the Texas corner, Jahdae Barron. He says Texas fan, but his skill translates. I love Barron. That is one of my favorite players in this year's class. I think he goes between the Cowboys pick in round 1 and the pick in round 2. Linebacker corner uncertainty is a short-term issue for me. I would love to add a veteran, and then you can go BPA, and that could be a receiver. That could be Barron. I would love to get back to the days of the Cowboys who are just taking the best player on the board and not having to take a tackle in round 1. That would be a good outcome for me. Now, of all the players that are realistically available, who do you want to draft in round 1? It's the pinned comment on today's show. So if the ad comes here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there and let me know. Also from Xavier Worthy Burner, his offseason plan: fire McCarthy, interview Johnson, Vrabel, Kellen, etc. Restructure the contracts like we mentioned on our offseason plan and on the Cat video we did. Resign Dowdle, resign Turpin, Aubrey, Lewis. Get a veteran wide receiver as step 4, veteran edge rusher, get a safety, vet running back, which I think could actually probably just be Dowdle. Sign Micah, and then draft Jalen Walker, the linebacker edge from Georgia. Penn State safety Kevin Winston Jr., Penn State running back Nick Singleton, and then Jack Beach, the wide receiver. I think I pronounced that last. I think it's Beach and not Beck. Sorry if I got that wrong, my friend. As well, in the 4th round, you obviously have no 4th-round pick. That's the TCU receiver. I like Savion Williams more. I don't know if you get to him in the 4th round if you have a 4th-round pick. Solid plan. You address a lot of things. I went very quick on it to not be too boring. I don't have any complaints about it. It would be a better offseason than what we've seen in a long time out of Dallas. From Austin, if you draft left tackle in round 1, what are your thoughts on moving Guyton to right tackle and Steele to right guard? Steele is a great run blocker. He is at his best as a run blocker. I think we are in full agreement on that front. I don't think he's a guard, though. He's big. Like, you don't normally see people of Terrence Steele's size play guard because it's almost too large to be in there. Like, there's not a lot of 6'6", 6'7" guards. He hasn't played guard. I don't love a position change. I think if you're planning to take a tackle in round 1, which I don't know if I want to, I think let's be a real team and not have to invest every premium pick at the same 3 spots every other year. I don't want to go down that path. You can argue Guyton at right tackle. Go sign a vet or go make Austin Richards your left tackle. You don't have to spend a 1st-round pick there. And if you're putting Guyton at right tackle, I think you're probably going to cut Terrence Steele. Jeff Dunn, I know you were pounding the table for Graham Barton in last year's draft. Now the year's over. How do you feel about Cooper Beebe at center over Barton, which we got for a free pick after the trade down, though Guyton has not been a plus player with the 1st-round pick. I don't know if I'd even consider Guyton a neutral player. Probably might have been a negative player in year 1. He's young. It happens. I think Barton played. I think he was probably better than what PFF graded him out at. But I liked what I saw from Cooper Beebe, too. And, I was a big fan of the Cooper Beebe draft pick. That was my favorite pick relative to where he was taken and where I had him on my board. So I liked a lot of what I saw from Cooper Beebe. That made me feel better, even in the moment, about passing on Graham Barton. The overall Cowboys draft class, up and down. Guyton, I think, has some confidence issues, which I think might in part be a coaching staff issue. Because that's not what you want to see out of your 1st-round pick. I think the constant in and out of the lineups is not a good thing for any young player, especially a raw one. Thought Marshawn Nealon was playing down the stretch, and did we even really notice him? I don't know. Maurice Leofau was good. Cooper Beebe was good. Wish you'd taken a running back in the 4th round. If you had that pick, that would have been nice. Kalen Carson was not a good football player. You got good play from Brevin Spanford. You always seem to find a UDFA. That was kind of middling for the year, for at least in terms of year 1 impact relative to expectations. Better than 2023, but still not as good as we've seen in years past. So grade the Cowboys draft class in year 1. A, B, C, D, or F in the comment section of today's show. We don't wipe these 304s. Why are people victory lapping Zeke to the Chargers practice squad? I don't feel like fighting people. So I almost want to pass on this question, to be quite honest. But that's not fair because you super chatted for it. People don't want to admit that they were wrong. And somehow the bar has changed from he's the best back on the roster to, he's a playoff team's fifth best back, therefore he's still the same guy he was at his prime. And in the end, people don't like to admit that they're wrong. That's what it normally comes down to. Human nature. I've never in my life seen so much victory lapping over a practice squad player. They did it with Dalvin. Some people did it with Dalvin Cook last year too. Look how that one turned out. I honestly don't care about Zeke. Honestly, the next time I want to talk about Zeke is when he signs the one-day contract to retire as a Cowboy. 21 was great. 15 was not. Today's show is made possible by Game Time. Game Time has a new feature. It's called Game Time Picks. It makes getting tickets for events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to only show you incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets to find the best value. It is curation designed to make it easier to find better value for tickets to sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. Toggle the all-in pricing feature, I would always say on, to get the total cost up front, so there are no surprise fees at checkout. Download the Game Time app, create your account, redeem code CHATSPORTS ChatSports for $20 off. Download Game Time today for last-minute tickets, the lowest price guaranteed. Links in the comments section and the description of today's show. That's GameTime.co, promo code ChatSports, CHATSPORTS ChatSports for the $20 off. Remember, terms do apply. Steven, unless we pick the talent the opponents are facing next year, we will barely make 500. I am offended that the Niners picked the one year that they were bad for us to also be bad. That annoys me to no end. Look, I think I'll take it a step further, Steven. I don't care if you're 500 or not. If you don't upgrade your talent, you will not get to where we want to go. And we want more than being just a playoff team. I would hope the Jones boys feel the same way. We knew after last year, hey, probably not good enough. Got to make some changes. So if we're going to do 2 years of running it back, coaching staff-wise, with minimal changes and getting worse or not that much better on the roster, I mean, that's going to go the way we think it's going to go. We didn't think no one thought this was the Cowboys' year this year. I don't want to do it again this upcoming offseason. That's not fun for me. Not fun for anybody. From Carter, how do you feel about Tyler Warren in round one? That is the Penn State tight end. Conflicted, maybe is the one word for it. He's awesome at football. That is like, he is Penn State's best playmaker, and they've got two good running backs too, Katron Allen, Nick Singleton, who I like a lot. He's also a tight end. And outside of very few exceptions, tight end features a pretty big learning curve and adjustment period to life in the NFL. And I want to find a second playmaker. I do think you need that beyond CeeDee Lamb. And it could be Luther Burden, could be Emeka Ibuka. You're not going to get, Emeka Ibuka. You're not going to get Ted McMillan. You could talk me into Warren being the next best playmaker. But given the way tight ends normally work, I don't know if I want to spend a top 15 pick on that. But he's really good. He's my tight end one. So I'm conflicted by it. But maybe let me know who the head coach is. If it's McCarthy, I don't trust that. I don't trust him to maximize a tight end. I don't. Who do you want the Dallas Cowboys to draft? Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Talk probably around one, but you can go later if there's someone else you got in mind there. Let me know in the comments of today's show. Harry Mundy, you said $100 million without cutting anyone, but wasn't one of those steps to save cap space to cut the safeties. That's the maximum savings. The maximum was like $119. You don't have to cut the safeties, and you can still get to $100 million. You could also restructure the safeties and keep them if you want to, not cut them. You can get right up to $100 million all via restructures and extending them like a Parsons and not have to cut anybody. That's not the maximum, but you can get there. Lance Dunbar's burner. Would you add someone like E.J. Speed, Anthony Nelson? Would you rather draft a young linebacker? Nelson's not a linebacker. That's a defensive end. We play standing up sometimes. I would add a veteran linebacker. Open the Nick Bolton, bringing him back, or who I wanted originally out of Missouri. Not back, but you know what I mean. If I were the Cowboys, and again, they don't listen to me, I would sign a veteran linebacker. Doesn't have to be crazy expensive. I think Maurice Leofau can be one of my starters. That's one spot filled. I think DeMarvion Overshown's going to come back, but I don't know it for certain. So I would sign a veteran. That could be Eric Kendricks, frankly. It could be a Nick Bolton. I doubt Dre Greenlaw's going to be in their price range. E.J. Speed, the Colts linebacker, could fit that mold. I would sign a veteran to a shorter contract, have my insurance policy, and if I fall in love with a linebacker and he's there for me, I can take him. But I don't have to take a linebacker. And then I'd probably spend one of my half dozen late day 3 picks on a young linebacker to help out on special teams and probably replace Damone Clark. Now, we will have plenty of Dallas Cowboys draft videos for you here on the channel. So if you haven't already, hit that sub button, youtube.com/Cowboys TV, for more free Cowboys YouTube videos. Gary, under the assumption that Mike is gone and Kellen is hired as the head coach, what would his projected staff be? He knows people like Kevin Patullo as OC and Chris Richard as DC. I'll be honest, there's 0% chance Chris Richard's coming in. That's not it. That race done been run. Chris Richard, I don't think was the most loved coach across the board. That's why he's bounced around so many jobs. Patullo he's the passing game coordinator, I think, for Philadelphia. So that's intriguing. The main issue that I kind of run into with Kellen Moore, if you're on board with what you know about Kellen already, is I am curious what his coaching staff would look like. If they move on from Zimmer in this hypothetical and they bring Kellen in, I think Zimmer return is a very obvious answer. Can I throw out another one for you? As DC, you bring back Matt Eberflus, who Cowboys know for a long time. Now, I think both Kellen and Matt might be a little bit of relationship mending you need to do. With the way things ended, the Cowboys had blocked Eberflus before from leaving, and then he finally got out of there and was thrilled and became head coach. And the way things ended with the Cowboys and Kellen, I think there was some bad blood from Kellen. I don't blame him for that. I think there was some frustration there. Make no mistake about it. Whoever coach you hire, if you move on from Mike, you gotta make sure this coaching staff is good and let them have some power too. Otherwise, it's just more Jerry and Steven meddling. Crush Equity. Can you give your analysis of Cam Skattebo? He's my favorite running back in the draft. Out of Genty, maybe Kansas. The guy, it's Devin Neal. But not unless actually like an actual breakdown of Cam Skattebo. He is a unique prospect. I don't know where he goes. If you want I think he will work best in a committee. That is a powerful runner. I mean, you saw it against Texas, where he became a true household name, so to speak, and even in the Big 12 championship game. That is a tackle breaker. That is a powerful player. He can also has soft hands, though. He catches balls pretty well. Me and my other buddy, who was also in this role, in this job, media industry, big draft guy, we tried to identify what's the player comp for Cam Skattebo, because he's not fast, and I do think the speed is going to be a big concern for teams. I would like to put him in a committee with an explosive runner. Honestly, I think a draft class, as challenging as it might be with where I think they go, a draft class pairing of Cam Skattebo from Arizona State and Travion Henderson at Ohio State is an awesome pairing, because I want to keep Henderson touches low, and I wanted to get him big plays and get him explosive opportunities, and then Skattebo be my power back. But he's not Mike Allstott. I don't love that comparison, frankly. But he's got good pass ability. We saw it. He can throw the ball a little bit too. I don't have a great comparison for him, but he's a tackle breaker. He's tough. He's physical. He'll wear you down, but he's not the fastest. And I do think that's going to be the single biggest concern for him coming out of Arizona State. He is, without doubt, a blast to watch. And I'll say this. I should have put this in the mailback cut too. It's fine. There's a dozen guys I feel that way about the running back class. It's dog, 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 dog. Like over and over. There's so many good ones. Both Penn State guys, Ohio State guys, Genty, Marion Hampton. You mentioned Devin Neal, explosive player. You can go Devin Neal pairing with Cam Skadaboo. That works too. There's a lot. There's a lot of really good running backs in this year's class. Just really good group. All right, the Super Chat menu, by the way, $20 for a shot, $50 for the beer bong, $500 for a custom Cowboys jersey. I'll sip my water here. $20 for the shot, $50 for the beer bong, and a whole lot more. All right, we'll discuss some cut candidates here in a second. But who do you want the Cowboys to draft in round one? I think there's a lot of options that are valid here. Genty will get plenty of answers, and I don't blame anyone for that either. I think that, much like the Bijan Robinson conversation, if Genty's there, he's the best player on the board. That also goes for like Ted McMillan and Mason Graham, and maybe they're not there. I think Genty might have the best chance of being there because he's a running back versus the DT and the wide receiver. I see Luther Burden. You need a number 2 receiver. He's super cheap for 5 years, 4.5 years, whatever you want to call it. I would not be mad at a Luther Burden pick. Jalen Walker, it's a lot of fun. You get a good defensive coordinator there, man. You get Jalen Walker, healthy to Marvin Ocean, and Micah Parsons attacking. That's fun. That's really fun. I would take Genty. I would not trade up for him though. I need my draft picks. I don't have a 4th rounder already. I don't want to be down to 2 or future pick as well being down there. Kelvin Banks, I like him. I don't want to keep drafting more offensive tackles in the first round. There does become a point where it's probably too much investment into one spot, and the other options, other roster spots get kind of neglected a little bit there. Genty, Burden, Jahdae Barron at Texas, who I am a big fan of. If you lose Jordan Lewis, Barron's my guy. I don't know if he goes round 1. I think there might be some arm length concerns. I don't care. He reminds me of first season Brian Branch, who you also know I love that Alabama. That was my guy. And I was absolutely right on that one. Right, wrong on other stuff, but right on that one. Genty, Ted McMillan. I would love McMillan. That's like your T. Higgins. OSU defensive linemen. There's 3 of them I think are going to go top 75, if not top 50. Tyke Williams is the defensive tackle. Sawyer and JTT are the edges. Williams could be a really good pick for you in day 2. Like I think there's a scenario in which like you get like an impact playmaker in round 1, like a wide receiver or something, a DT in round 2, and you could get a really good running back in round 3. Like that's, I think those like potential picks with who I think will be there could work really, really well for you. Noah Turner, what do you think Nick Bolton's market could be? I don't know. He's a little. He's not the most athletic player. He's not the best necessarily in coverage, but he always seems to find his way to being around the football. And I liked him a lot coming out of Missouri. And I think if you trust your other back 7 guys to cover, I think you'll be able to have success with Bolton. Again, I don't think he's the greatest. I thought he was actually better this year. I thought his best year was probably back in 2022. So maybe you can find some value there, but he's a good run defender. And he can do a little bit of blitzing stuff too. I like him. I don't know if he gets $10 million or what, but it's a guy that I liked a lot coming out of Missouri. Not the biggest, but I think he's a good football player. So, small ZL mob. Tom, thoughts on Devin Neal? Very fun. I think this is a committee back. I think a lot of the guys, as you get further along, outside of like your top guys in the first couple rounds, a lot of them are like, let's pair him with this. Devin Neal is not a big football player. He's got decent size. He's listed at 5'11" to it. I don't think he's actually quite that big, but he's fast. He can fly. He is an explosive play generator. And I want explosive plays out of my backfield. I think given the depth of the class, he probably goes some point early-ish day 3. Could see him sticking into the 3rd round too. So depending on what you do at the running back spot, that is someone I have interest in. Wouldn't be. Let me put it this way: I would not be surprised if you don't have your 4th round pick for Jonathan Mingo. Devin Neal goes around there, and we're sitting here this time next year going, imagine if you got Devin Neal in the 4th round. That I could see that being the outcome for the Kansas back. On today's edition of the Cowboys Report, we're breaking down the top Cowboys cut candidates. Unlike previous years, this list is actually pretty short. This is not nearly as long as some of the other cut candidate videos we've done in the past because the Cowboys simply aren't actually paying that many players. There's very few viable options. Now, if you want the Cowboys, please, we're begging you, do something this offseason. Show it by liking the video for me right now. You want the Cowboys to do something? Do it. Like it. Likes equals move. Oh, I did singular and plural, but whatever. Terrence Steele is first up here on the list. And he's got an $18.13 million cap hit. There are 2 ways that you can do cuts. You can do them what's called like the regular cut. That's before June 1st. You get all your savings instantly. But it's less savings because you can't push dead money off in the future. That's just $4.63 million. Post June 1st, you save $14 million. Now, you got to carry that cap hit throughout free agency and throughout the offseason, but then you can pay for your draft class and your rollover money and all that, and you get more money in the long run. You have dead money on your books in 2025, but if you already restructured Steele once because you paid him last year. You were paying him his base salary no matter what. So I actually had no complaints about restructuring him because if you're going to pay a guy, you'd rather have the money then and roll it over if you don't spend it because the value of a dollar in 2023 was more than 2022. So the question for Steele becomes is, what do you do here? Is he worth keeping at that cap hit? Now, you can always restructure to bring down the cap hit, but you're still paying the same amount of money in terms of the base salary. You could ask for a pay cut. Seems a bit unlikely. I thought Steele was better down the stretch this year. And there's a couple reasons for that. Maybe he was getting healthier from the knee injury. Maybe he was back to closer to full speed. The Cowboys offense was designed to get the ball out really, really, really quickly, and that makes it easier on your tackles. The level of competition was not as good either. I haven't seen 2022 Terrence Steele yet. I also know that $14 million might not get you an upgrade in free agency. It is very tough to find even low-end starters like I think Terrence Steele is in free agency. It's not a great group. I would need to know your plan if you're cutting Terrence Steele. Because in this particular case, the devil you know might be a little bit better than the devil you don't. And if you get a better offensive line coach, maybe the problem's solved anyway. Now, what would you do with Terrence Steele? Again, I think there are very valid answers for both of these. K for keep, C for cut. Let me know at the pinned comment of today's show. The ad comes here on YouTube. Take advantage of it. Head down there and go vote. Next up, Donovan Wilson. That is the safety. Now, Wilson has been a very streaky football player. When he is playing great football, the Cowboys normally win. But when he's not playing good football, the Cowboys lose because it's the role players that can make and break games, especially against better teams. $8.65 million cap hit. Pre-June 1st savings, $5.35 million. Post-June 1st savings, $7 million. I thought Wilson was better down the stretch this year. I think Mike Zimmer kind of figured out how best to use him. He is not a tight end eraser, but it can be a force player for you in the box. And that was reflected in the numbers. The sacks went back up this year. The pass breakups went back up this year. The TFLs kind of hovered. There were too many missed tackles for me. And I thought he really struggled in coverage against tight ends. The George Kittle game is sticking in my mind pretty heavily. But I think both safeties, I think you can move on from. Wilson was the streaky player. Malik Hooker was fine, but he wasn't like overly impactful. I thought he was just like a lot of games. I'm like, okay, Hooker was out there, didn't make a lot of mistakes, didn't make many plays. Do I want to pay $7.75 million for that? Save 3.75 right now, 5.75 after June 1st. Again, that's a sizable savings. Hooker has been kind of, a mostly steady player in his time in Dallas. There are mistakes, don't get me wrong. Just aren't a lot of splash plays. And even some of his picks were just like, they went right to him. He was in the right spot at the right time on an overthrow. I always covet impact safeties. I would love to see this Cowboys team with a little bit more range at free safety or a little bit better coverage ability out of Donovan Wilson's group. Maybe Wanye Thomas and Marquise Bell can be that. They're ERFA and an RFA respectively. But you cut those guys, you do have an opening at safety. Who are you cutting? MH for Malik Hooker, DW for Donovan Wilson, B for both of them, N for none. You're going to keep both guys. Sound off for me in the comment section of today's show. That's kind of it for your big savings. But some other names I do want to mention here. Damone Clark, $1.16 million cap hit. 1.1 if you cut him pre or post June 1st. There's no difference. He's in the last year of his deal, so the money is what it is because you can't push it into the future. Clark thought a favor. That is very obvious. And I think, again, it took Zimmer some time to identify like what he has and who he trusts and who he doesn't trust. Clark was a 109 tackler last year. And I told you guys at the end of the year, like, hey, don't just assume that tackles mean good play. Doesn't always mean that. I thought Damone Clark was a great example of that, and we saw it down the stretch this year. They benched him this year. They played him a lot against the Lions. They played him a little bit against the Eagles. After Week 9, Damone Clark played 4 defensive snaps the rest of the season. They lost to Marvin Overshown in that time frame. Eric Kendricks missed time. He wasn't playing for them. He was full out demoted. So maybe he is a trade candidate. Maybe he is a preseason cut candidate. But I think there's a real chance Clark is not on this roster come week 1 of the NFL regular season. Today's show is made possible by Prize Picks. It is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. It is playoff time. It's now or never. Don't miss out on the last few weeks of action with Prize Picks. Here's one of our Pro Football Playoffs Prize Picks slates here. Saquon more than rushing yards. Painful, I know, but good pick. Keon Coleman more than receiving yards. 1.5 is all it is. And James Cook more than a half rushing yard. I assume Amari Cooper will be on Denzel Ward, or half touchdown for James Cook. He averaged a touchdown per game. I love that one. That's in all my Prize Picks slates this week. Go download the Prize Picks app over at prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. It's Prize Picks. Run your game. This is a surprise one, and I think would also maybe go in the trade bucket or just general concern. Player we've forgotten about is Sam Williams. Just under $2 million cap hit. I put him on here because he's one of the few guys that saves you close to 1.5 and not just like the vet minimum it would cost you to re-sign somebody of $1 million. 1.48 is the pre and post June 1st cut savings there. I want to see what he does in the preseason. I want to see how he looks getting back and healthy. It sucks because you could have really used him this year. They spent a second-round pick on Marshawn Kneeland. I don't think Williams was as good in 2023 as he was in 2022. He's had off-the-field stuff there. I'm keeping him right now, but this is absolutely entering a make-or-break offseason for Sam Williams. Hit the rehab properly. I'm not saying he hasn't, by the way, but like make sure that's happening. Make sure you are on top of your game because there's a lot riding on him for this upcoming season. Now, we have Cowboys videos for you each and every single day. If you haven't already, hit that sub button, youtube.com/@CowboysTV. One more player I want to mention is Trayvon Diggs. And I've seen some bad info out there on the savings and everything. Before he got hurt, you could have saved a decent amount of money. That you could have saved the $9 million base salary by cutting Trayvon Diggs and making him a post-June 1st cut before his base salary guaranteed on March 22nd. He is injured. He needed knee surgery. He has injury guarantees in his contract. So those savings, poof, they go away. You cut Trayvon Diggs right now, you lose $7.5 million in salary cap space. You are paying a starting contract more than you ever spend on one player in a year in free agency if you cut Diggs. It's a non-starter. Doesn't make any sense. Post June 1st, you could save $1 million, but you are still overall losing money because you're carrying that extra dead money difference into next year when you could just potentially move on and save the same amount that you would be saving now and not have the player. It doesn't make sense. You're keeping Trayvon Diggs. This, in the end, would save you the $1 million in roster bonuses, but you might say that if he's not healthy anyway, or at least part of it. So it doesn't, dumping Diggs makes no sense. I've seen it mentioned. I wanted to acknowledge it. I don't see any way in which it happens. It just doesn't, just not good business. Now, name a player who you want to cut. Got a couple of different players I want to mention here in just a second. But let me know in the comments section a player you want the Dallas Cowboys to release. Now, in the past, for these videos, I would have a long list of like, this guy saves you $1 million, this guy saves you $2 million, this guy saves you 1.5, like down the roster veterans, guys like Will Greer, etc., that are back, but you can cut and not lose any money. I'm changing it this time. These 8 players, if you cut them, even make them post-June 1st cuts, you either save $0 or you lose salary cap savings. It's Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, Micah Parsons, Tyler Smith, Mozzie Smith, Tyler Guyton, Marshawn Nealand, Jonathan Mingo. Basically, they're all just got paid, or they are first or second round picks that have their base salaries guaranteed this year, regardless of if they're on the team or not. Everybody else you could cut. You don't actually have a lot of savings, though, in the process. All those other players, the random back end of the roster corner, like, Andrew Booth, saves you around $1 million. That's it, because he's out of guarantees on his contract. So they're not worth mentioning, but you can cut him if you want to. Like, I want to cut Jalen Brooks. Okay, it's fine. You can cut him. No one cares. It doesn't really matter. They don't save you much money either. But because you haven't actually paid many players, you don't have nearly as many cut candidates as you've had in the past. CJ DeYoung III, the GM, Tom, with the $100 million you talked about. How do you build a championship team in the offseason? Hires, fires, draft, free agency. We did a little bit of this in the perfect offseason plan. If I were in charge, I am going to just throw $15 million per year at Ben Johnson. I am going to pay Micah Parsons. I'm going to be ultra aggressive. I'm going to sign a linebacker. I'll sign a safety. I might break the bank on a Javon Holland. I might go get a Justin Reed instead. I will be aggressive. We did some of that in the preseason, perfect offseason plan video. Check it out if you haven't already. We will do a more in-depth one for free agency once you reach that point as well, and then the draft on top of that. From Smallsy Mob, replace Dono or Malik with Nick Amonwari. That is a South Carolina safety. I like him. That is a height, weight, speed darling. Of like, he's big, he runs fast, hits people hard. Those guys normally are pretty impactful there. It doesn't really change things, frankly. In terms of like replacing one, I think you get better long term. I think you probably spend a second round pick on him. One concern I have though with Nick, he apparently didn't tell the South Carolina coaching staff he was going to leave at halftime, that he wasn't going to play. That's a huge red flag for me. Like, I think the Cam Ward thing was the plan going in, but if it's not the plan going in, you can't do that, dude. You got to know that's your plan going in. It's not that. It just doesn't make any sense to me. So that's a big red flag. Got to vet that in the interview process, but he is, I think, going to be a consensus top 5 safety this year. All right, last question. As a reminder, we'll stay alive as long as the super chats are coming in here, but will Mike McCarthy return as the Cowboys head coach in 2025? A for yes, B for no. 53% voting yes on that front. Will return as the Cowboys head coach. A for yes, B for no. 53% voting yes. Last call for the super chats here. 2 notes. One, we will be live on the channel tomorrow night for Texas versus Ohio State. For the Notre Dame Penn State game, we will be live on the Chat Sports YouTube channel only. So go subscribe there. I will tweet out the link as well at WhatGoingDowney. So one video tomorrow, then the live watch party. Hit that sub button so you don't miss out. YouTube.com/@CowboysTV.